It's May 29, and that marks the observance of International Day of UN Peacekeepers. It's a day when Jamaica and the rest of the world pauses to recognize and to celebrate those men and women who have served nations as military, police officers, or simply civilians in peacekeeping operations. Hi there, I'm Adrian Atkins, and welcome to Jamaica Magazine. May 29 also finds us still in shock and mourning at the passing of a statesman, one of the framers of the Jamaican Constitution, former Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Edward Seaga. Today we continue to pay tribute to his life and share some of his significant contributions to human resource and cultural development. Do stay with us.
I like to do things that can help people to develop, because when you help people to develop, you're helping the country to develop.
Good day, I'm Carrie-Ann Smith, and this is your GIS News for Wednesday, May 29. Prime Minister Andrew Holness has announced a state funeral to honor the life of former statesman Edward Seaga. Jamaica's fifth Prime Minister died on his 89th birthday yesterday at approximately 1 p.m. Jamaica time. He had been receiving treatment at a medical facility in Florida for the past 3 weeks. In Parliament Tuesday, Mr. Holness said plans were in place for Mr. Seaga's body to be returned to the island at the earliest possible time.
We expect that he will be accompanied by his wife and other family members, and he will be received by the government with the appropriate honor guard in place.
Prior to the funeral, Mr. Seaga's body will lie in state at a venue to be announced, and a period of mourning will also be organized. In Parliament Tuesday, a moment of silence was observed for former Prime Minister Seaga. Prime Minister Andrew Holness led tributes for the man many hailed as Papa Eddie.
He served this country for most of his life. He was in this parliament for over 40 years. He is truly a great Jamaican. Indeed, he participated in the framing of our Constitution and in the development of so many institutions which now define Jamaica.
The impact of his life and the contribution that he made to this country will be felt for generations to come.
And we give thanks for his life. Our feelings at this time should not only be those of mourning, that is natural, that is human, but also of thanksgiving. Thanksgiving for a long and productive life.
He dedicated his life to advancing Jamaica in every way, and we have become a cultural powerhouse worldwide because of Mr. Seaga's vision and service. All of us, especially those of us from West Kingston, we are heartbroken today, Mr. Speaker. He was closer than a brother.
And the song says, if loving you is wrong, then we don't want to be right. And we maintain that loving Edward Philip George Seaga was the right thing to do, Mr. Speaker.
A special sitting of the House is being planned where parliamentarians may pay more elaborate tributes to the former Prime Minister. In the meantime, opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips also heaped praises on Mr. Seaga, remembering him as a giant in the cultural, social, and economic life of independent Jamaica. Dr. Phillips said that having spent close to 60 years in representational politics, Mr. Seaga's passing was the end of an era in the island's political and social development. In addition to being the last surviving member of the committee which drafted the Jamaican Constitution, Dr. Phillips lauded Mr. Seaga for being the conceptualizer of many institutions, such as the UDC, the JCDC, Heart Trust, and Metropolitan Parks and Markets. He also recounted Mr. Seaga's contributions to the housing, arts, and social development of his former constituency. The opposition leader expressed condolences to Mr. Seaga's family, as well as his colleagues in politics, sports, music, research, and education, and his many friends. And the tributes continued to flow for Mr. Seaga from persons and entities that acknowledged his contributions to various sectors. On Tuesday, Governor General Sir Patrick Allen described the former Prime Minister as a strategic thinker, a man of action, and one of the architects of Jamaica's post-independent governmental structure. Former Prime Minister Bruce Golding remembered Mr. Seaga as one of the island's most accomplished nation builders, whose trailblazing achievements left an indelible mark on Jamaica's development. The University of Technology community, of which Mr. Seaga was its chancellor, praised him for his distinguished service to the learning institution and the wider Jamaica. The Premier League Clubs Association, which Mr. Seaga founded and chaired, hailed the late leader as a champion for football on the island.
On the formation of the Premier League Clubs Association, he really was instrumental in negotiating and assisting us to earn the vast amounts, increased amounts of money. Just to give you a scope, when we took it over from the JFF was getting 25 million a year in sponsorship for the league. And we, in the first few years, we were topping $100 million in sponsorship.
And the Heart Trust, which Mr. Seaga conceptualized in 1982, has committed to building on his legacy by equipping the nation's human resource assets to drive the island's socio-economic development. In other news, over $100 million will be spent this financial year to upgrade and implement several markets across the country. As part of the allocation, Negril in Westmoreland is to receive a market at a cost of $7 million. Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie made the disclosure during his contribution to the sectoral debate in Parliament yesterday.
In consultations with the Negril Chamber of Commerce, residents and stakeholders in Negril, the technical team of the ministry has completed the design for a brand new market to be built in Negril.
At the same time, the Stony Hill Market in St. Andrew will be upgraded at a cost of $13 million. Works at that market are to include sanitary, electrical, and plumbing. The Hopewell Market in Hanover will undergo rehabilitation works valued at $20 million. And Phase 2 of repairs to the Clarkstown Market in Trelawney will also commence in this financial year. And finally, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has joined the education and media fraternity in mourning the passing of Educator, columnist and public commentator Martin Henry. 61-year-old Henry reportedly collapsed and later died after eulogizing former Prime Minister Edward Seaga on one of the island's television programs. Mr. Holness says Martin Henry has made a significant contribution to our education system, as well as being a strong advocate of transparency and good governance. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Carrie-Ann Smith. Thanks for watching.
Edward Seaga has many accolades to his name, but his close connection with the people of West Kingston remains one of his most tangible legacies. With the news of his passing fresh in their minds, some of those former constituents tell us what he meant to them.
West Kingston, Mr. Speaker, has become an institution that can never be surpassed. I want to use this parliament to say to the people of West Kingston that you continue to be a great constituency, a loyal constituency. You continue to be a source of strength.
He's been sick for a while, but even, managing, such a news, it is really heavy for us. It's heavy for our community who's, seen him as a father for years, as, the guidance, the visionary behind our community and what we stand for. So it's very heavy for us. I'm not really filled with words right now, but because it's something that we're still trying to digest. Entire communities in a very sad and somber state right now, so it's difficult.
I'm a product of Mr. Seaga. I have grown up with him, and he was like a father, a friend, everything to me. He is one of them who, through education, he has taught us so many things, and now I am one of his proud recipient, yes, because I'm the principal of the Charles Chinloy Early Childhood Development Center, one of the first basic school in Tivoli Gardens. And I am here today. I'm happy for the legacy he has left, although I'm grieving.
I grew up with Mr. Seaga from I was a child. He sent me to school. He was not just a member of parliament, he was also a family person. Whenever time you have a problem, you could have go to Mr. Seaga.
As a young girl growing up, he used to take me like to Chakamolan to recite, like flowers on my shoulders, slippers on my feet, ring on my finger, and mama's darling there, do you think I'm sweet as a little black girl growing up? Thanks to Mr. Seaga.
Seaga has taught us a lot, gave us a lot, because the house where I live in, Seaga gave my mother that. I'm one of them born at Salt Lane in the yard where Seaga dance the revival.
From I left school, elementary, I'm with Mr. Seaga from about 59 until now. And he's such a loving person, caring person, and he looked out for the poor. As for me, I learned a lot from him. Skill, anything that is creative is for that, for the young people. I sadly miss him.
Member of Parliament for Western Kingston, Desmond McKenzie, has revealed that the constituency will host an official function to celebrate the life of Edward Seaga.
Edward Seaga was Prime Minister of Jamaica from 1980 to 1989. It was an important milestone in his 43 years of service to the people of West Kingston, whom he represented in the House of Representatives from 1962 until his retirement in 2005. On his last day in the chambers, members on both sides of the political aisle paid tribute to his long and impactful career. As the nation mourns his passing, we revisit highlights of his final presentation to the people of Jamaica through the Parliament. But before that, we recount his contribution to a range of important institutions and programs that he established during his tenure.
In that first meeting, we had a discussion about agriculture. And he had very practical, very novel ideas about how to improve agriculture. And it surrounded technology.
A man ahead of his time.
Edward Philip George Seaga, for me, is an icon.
Putting Jamaica back on track in the 1980s would have been the most pleasing.
I think the landmark development in terms of managing the built environment, the development of the built environment, would be the role he played in the UDC, which then laid the platform and the plans for much of the urban development of Jamaica. Quite a bit of effort was placed in the development of the Kingston waterfront.
At that time, we had a lot of finger piers going off into the ocean, and no one conceived that we could have the Central Business District here. The Bank of Jamaica was relocated, and then very shortly, the various buildings and blocks took shape until we had what we have now.
All his life,
that man has demonstrated that he believes in the building of a nation. That's his passion.
In this triennium period, one of the most significant decisions taken is the recommendation to approve an expenditure of $2 million over the remaining period of this triennium to build up the university presence in the non-campus territories.
From the time he started the Heart Trust, which spoke to an alternative or parallel, developmental path for our youths, it began to speak to the understanding that education and training in its broadest context were needed for the forward march of this country.
He established most of the cultural institutions in this country. I remember very much the fact that he conceptualized the Edna Manley Center. At that time, it was not called the Edna Manley, but the Cultural Training Center. And he also conceptualized the CPTC, where he felt that it was important to capture the culture of the people and to document those things. And he also felt that it was important to harness all that culture in the performing arts, the fine arts, all the other art forms, and to train the talent that is so rich and that's so diverse among our people.
I had a first-hand experience of Jamaican folk music and the religious music as well, revival, and Kumina and things like that. And of course, that to me was the heart and soul of the old Jamaican folk culture. So I extended that in the late 50s, about 10 years later, to being a producer of Jamaican music. And I was doing so just at the time when the original Jamaican music was emerging.
After that, we had the success of the Jamaican music abroad with Millie Small, Let Us Pride. Then Carl Crawford went and won Miss World. So I started on a high, with the people feeling proud of this little country.
Somebody had to start the process. And he was the one that had the vision to start the process that many people that came after had to build on that foundation.
What Mr. Seaga did was to recognize the way of life of the ordinary Jamaican and what made the ordinary Jamaican feel inspired.
It is not in dispute that Edward Seaga has been the principal engineer and developer of independent Jamaica. His programs and vision for Jamaica are written in the extensive range of projects and institutions which spans the entire field of national development.
Mr. Speaker, this is indeed a very special day. My record of participation in Parliament was 2.5 years spent in the Legislative Council, followed by 42 3/4 years in the House of Representatives, totaling a little more than 45 years. And as I pondered, how should I end my career in Parliament? What should I say in departing from this august body? It came to me that I should end it where I started. In those very early days, what I was finding, comparing my background with the background of the communities in which I lived and the people who I was getting to know, and came to the conclusion that we lived in two Jamaicas, in which one part has the blessings of being organized into a modern society. They might be called the hubs, if I am to make the comparison. And the other part, the much larger section of our Jamaica, is comprised of an Afrocentric traditional society, our folk society, our rural society, our inner city people, where the modernization that has taken place elsewhere has not been imparted or adopted there. To make this comparison, therefore, let us look at the three main areas which a system of good governance ought to provide for the people of a country. In order to deal with the problems that exist in this area, two things must be done. A will must exist to provide for the substantial resources that are necessary to fight crime. But if it is the resources alone, it is a waste of funds, because you cannot use resources to do the job that only good human resources can do. And it is time now for us to look at the situation from a perspective of getting rid of the dead wood and bringing in the green wood in the security forces system. In leaving this house, I plea that a new look will be taken to ensure that the approach to education in this next round will take into consideration the need for a new look at the early childhood education system, and to do what is necessary to strengthen it and to strengthen it effectively. What it means is that we would be doubling the skilled manpower of the country. We'd be doubling the capacity of young people to create a lifestyle which would make them upward mobile into a new segment of the class structure. And we'll be creating a more dynamic and productive economy. The economy has had a period of rapid advance. It has had a period of rapid decline. It has had some recovery, and it has had some stagnation. When one looks at the averages that are the telltale signs of what has taken place in the economy, we are only a little better off. But there is a large segment that have not done well at all, and that's the farming community. And any study of poverty in this country will tell you that the greatest element of poverty is in the agricultural sector of the country. And until something happens there to improve the lot of the farmer, you're not going to be able to get past the problems that the farmer has in order to make a decent living for himself and his family. And so I leave the thought with you that there's a necessity to be able to look at these as priorities if we are to bring more people into an area of prosperity in the economy. You get involved in politics, it absorbs you, it sucks you in. You can't move away, you can't give it up. Too many people depend on you. What I am doing is demonstrating that a good leader always does whatever he asks his followers to do. And so, I now can light my candle, sing my Sankey, and go to my home.
Now, as we mentioned earlier, this 24-hour period is being recognized as International Day of UN Peacekeepers, and we want you to join in the observance. So here are some must-know facts about the day. It is being celebrated under the campaign theme, Protecting Civilians, Protecting Peace. We pay tribute to the dedicated and courageous people serving in UN peacekeeping tasks, and we also honor the memory of those who have lost their lives to the cause of peace, such as our police officers or soldiers. Today marks the 20th anniversary of the first time the Security Council of the United Nations mandated a peacekeeping mission to protect civilians. Wherever in the world you are, you can join the campaign by using the hashtags PKDay and Protecting Peace, and by also sharing general knowledge on the observance. Remember that peace is its own reward. Let us cultivate that habit of being peacekeepers and make our country the place of choice to live and do just about anything. And this is where we leave you for today, but do join us again tomorrow for another informative edition. If you missed anything, you can watch it all again on our website or YouTube channel. And don't forget to keep up with us via Facebook, Instagram or Twitter pages. As you go throughout today, remember the words of Eleanor Roosevelt. It isn't enough to talk about peace, one must believe in it. And it isn't enough to believe in it, one must work at it. On behalf of the entire team at the GIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.